The first contact station of the Helios ring floated between two stars, bright on one side and dark on the other. It was a place built for peace, but peace there was always fragile. Humans had joined the Interstellar Alliance only 5 years earlier, and many species still watched them with careful eyes. Elias Ward stood near one of the observation windows, hands behind his back, posture calm. He was a junior human officer assigned to joint missions, not important enough to be famous, not unimportant enough to be ignored. He liked it that way. From here, he could see transport ships coming and going like slow-moving insects. Each one carried people who believed the future could be shared. The calm did not last. An emergency alert echoed through the station. A frontier outpost on a nearby planet had gone silent. The planet, Caris 9, was known for violent storms and unstable ground. It was also home to a Velari research team studying energy crystals deep below the surface. The Alliance Council ordered an immediate rescue mission. Elias found himself assigned to the team almost by accident. The human contingent was small, and he had survival training on unstable worlds. Within an hour, he was aboard a mixed-species shuttle heading toward Caris 9. The Velari were different from humans in many ways. They were taller with smooth, pale skin that reflected light like polished stone. Their eyes were dark and deep, and they rarely showed emotion. Their culture valued restraint and tradition above all else. Elias had trained alongside them, but he still found them hard to read. The shuttle shook as it entered the planet's atmosphere. Lightning flashed outside, blue and white against black clouds. The pilot cursed quietly as turbulence threw everyone against their harnesses. They landed hard near the ruined outpost. The structure had collapsed into the ground, half buried by shifting soil. Scanners showed life signs below, faint but present. The team moved quickly. Wind screamed across the surface and rain cut like needles. They descended into the broken structure, climbing over twisted metal and fallen walls. That was when Elias heard it. A sharp sound, almost like a cry, came from beneath a slab of reinforced alloy. Without thinking, Elias rushed toward it. The others shouted warnings, but the ground beneath them was already moving. The slab began to sink. Elias jumped forward, planting his boots and gripping the edge with both hands. The metal was heavier than anything he had lifted before. His muscles burned, but he held on. Beneath the slab, trapped in darkness, was a Velari woman. Her breathing was shallow, her eyes wide but focused. Their eyes met. She did not scream, she did not beg. She simply looked at him, and something in that look made Elias grit his teeth and pull harder. The ground shifted again. Another officer joined him, then another. Together they dragged the slab aside just enough. Elias reached down, wrapping his arms around the Velari woman and pulling her free as the ground collapsed where she had been. They rolled away just in time. For a moment, Elias lay on his back, staring up at the storm-filled sky, rain pounding his face. The Velari woman lay beside him, breathing fast but alive. She turned her head toward him. Her hand, long-fingered and trembling, touched his arm. "You stayed," she said quietly, her voice controlled despite the chaos. Elias nodded. "Of course." At the time, he thought nothing of it. The rest of the rescue went quickly. Survivors were recovered, the shuttle lifted off, and Caris 9 vanished beneath the clouds. Elias sat across from the Velari woman during the flight back. She had been introduced as Luri, a cultural envoy and scientist. She watched him often, her gaze thoughtful. Back at the Helios ring, medics treated the injured. Elias was cleared quickly, though his muscles ached and his hands shook from exhaustion. He expected to return to his quarters and sleep for a full day. Instead, he was summoned to the central hall. The hall was vast, filled with representatives from dozens of species. At its center stood the Alliance Council. Elias felt suddenly very small as he stepped forward. Luri stood among the Velari delegation. She looked composed, her posture perfect. When she saw Elias, her eyes softened just slightly. The Velari elder stepped forward. His voice carried through the chamber. "During the rescue on Caris 9, he said, a binding event occurred." Murmurs spread through the hall. Elias frowned. A binding event sounded serious, and he was sure no one had mentioned it before. Luri stepped forward next. She raised her hand in a traditional Velari gesture of declaration. "I have chosen," she said calmly. "The human Elias Ward is my partner for the duration of the mating season." The hall fell silent. Elias felt his heart stop. He turned to look at her, eyes wide. "I'm sorry," he said before he could stop himself. "I think there's been a misunderstanding." Lurie met his gaze. There has not. Whispers erupted among the delegates. Humans stared in shock. Other species leaned forward, curious. The Velari delegation remained still, their expressions unreadable. The council chair struggled to restore order. Envoy Lurie, the chair said carefully, this is highly irregular. It is, Lurie replied, but it is lawful. The Velari elder nodded once. The choice is valid. The season has begun. Elias felt heat rise to his face. He had trained for combat, diplomacy, and survival, but not for this. I didn't agree to anything, he said, trying to keep his voice steady. Lurie turned toward him fully now. You saved my life, she said. You stayed when leaving would have been safer. That action meets the criteria. Elias opened his mouth, then closed it. He had no idea what criteria she meant. The council ordered a recess. Elias was escorted from the hall by a human commander who looked both amused and terrified. In a private chamber, explanations followed. The Velari mating season was not what humans imagined. It was not driven by impulse or desire alone. It was a period of heightened emotional vulnerability for the Velari, during which a chosen partner provided stability. The bond was social, psychological, and cultural. Physical boundaries were strictly regulated. No violation of human laws or ethics was required. But the choice was binding. If Elias refused, it would be seen as a rejection of Velari honor. The alliance itself could suffer. Elias sat quietly as the words sank in. He thought of the look in Lurie's eyes under the collapsing slab, calm, focused, trusting. He had stayed because that was what humans did. They did not leave people behind. Now that choice had followed him back. Later that day, Elias met Lurie again, this time alone in a quiet garden dome filled with alien plants. Soft light filtered through the transparent ceiling. I did not intend to trap you, Lurie said, but my choice was honest. I don't understand, Elias replied. You barely know me. I know enough, she said. You acted without calculation. That is rare among my people. Elias rubbed the back of his neck. What exactly does this partnership involve? Presence, Lurie answered. Support, standing beside me during the season, nothing more unless mutually chosen. He studied her face, searching for deception and finding none. And how long is the season? He asked. Lurie paused. Several cycles. Elias let out a slow breath. This was not how he imagined his career going. He had joined the Alliance to represent humanity with honor, not to become the center of an interstellar incident. Yet as he looked at Lurie standing there, proud and uncertain in her own quiet way, he realized something important. She had chosen him because he had acted like a human, not strong, not dominant, just unwilling to abandon someone in need. I won't promise what I don't understand yet, Elias said finally, but I won't leave you alone in this. Lurie inclined her head, a Velari gesture of respect. That simple moment was watched by cameras and diplomats alike. Across the station, news spread fast. A human had been chosen. A human had not run. And somewhere deep in the Alliance, old assumptions began to crack. The announcement spread across the Helios ring faster than any official report. By the next cycle, everyone knew the story. A human officer had been chosen by a Velari envoy during mating season. Some spoke with curiosity, others with fear, a few with quiet excitement. Elias felt all of it pressing down on him as he walked through the station corridors. Eyes followed him now. Conversations stopped when he passed. He had become visible in a way he never wanted. The Alliance command reassigned him immediately. His normal duties were suspended, replaced with a new role that did not exist before. He was now listed as a cultural stabilizing partner, a title that sounded calm but carried heavy weight. Velari protocol officers briefed him for hours. They explained rules, limits, traditions, and unspoken expectations. Elias listened carefully, asked questions when needed, and took notes like a student preparing for an exam that could decide the future of more than just himself. The most important rule was simple. He must remain present. During the mating season, Velari emotional control weakened. They did not lose reason, but they felt everything more deeply. Anxiety, fear, doubt, pride. A chosen partner acted as an anchor, someone steady, someone predictable. You do not need to fix anything, one Velari instructor explained. You need only remain. That sounded easy, but Elias knew better. Remaining was often harder than acting. Lurie moved into a designated living space near his own. The quarters were separate, but connected by a shared common area. This arrangement followed both Velari tradition and human comfort standards. Cameras were present in all public areas, monitored by both species to ensure transparency. The first few days were quiet. Lurie spent long hours reviewing reports, preparing statements, and answering council questions. Elias accompanied her to meetings, sitting slightly behind her as protocol required. He said little unless asked directly. Other Veleri watched him closely. Some approached with polite curiosity, others with clear doubt. One Veleri male, taller and older, confronted Elias openly in a public hall. His voice was calm, but his words were sharp. "You are fragile," he said. "Your kind is short-lived. Why should one such as you be chosen?" Elias felt many eyes on him. He chose his words carefully. "I was not chosen for strength," he said. "I was chosen because I stayed." The Veleri male studied him for a long moment. Then he inclined his head slightly and walked away. It was not approval, but it was not rejection either. At night, Elias found sleep difficult. He replayed the rescue over and over in his mind. He wondered how one moment of instinct could change so much. He worried about making a mistake that could insult an entire species. One night he found Lurie standing in the shared space, staring at the stars through the dome ceiling. "You do not rest," he said gently. "Neither do you," she replied. He joined her, keeping a respectful distance. For a while, they said nothing. "Do you regret your choice?" he asked finally. Lurie considered the question. "No," she said, "but I fear the consequences." "That makes two of us," Elias replied with a small smile. Something eased between them then, not comfort exactly, but understanding. As the season progressed, subtle changes appeared. Lurie's control slipped in small ways. She paused longer before speaking. Her focus drifted at times. Once, during a council session, her voice shook. Elias noticed immediately. Without speaking, he stepped closer, placing himself within her field of view. He stood still, steady, breathing slow. It was something he had learned in human crisis training. Lurie's breathing matched his. Her voice steadied. The session continued. The Veleri noticed. Word spread that the human anchor worked. Not everyone was pleased. A rival faction within the alliance saw opportunity. If the bond failed publicly, the Veleri would lose honor and humans would take the blame. Quiet pressure began to build. Challenges followed. Elias was summoned to participate in Veleri trials. Not physical combat, but tests of patience, honesty, and resolve. One test required him to remain motionless for hours, while Veleri elders questioned his intentions again and again, trying to provoke anger or fear. He answered calmly every time. Another test placed him in a simulated emergency where he had to choose between personal safety and duty. He chose duty without hesitation. The results surprised many. Humans were not strong like the Veleri. They were not long-lived or emotionally reserved, but they were consistent. When humans chose something, they held to it. Lurie watched all of this quietly. Her respect for Elias deepened, though she rarely showed it openly. In private moments, however, she spoke more freely. "You are not what they expected," she told him once. "I hear that a lot," Elias replied. As the midpoint of the season approached, tensions reached a peak. Rumors of sabotage circulated. Security increased around both Elias and Lurie. One cycle, during a transit between council chambers, the station lights failed. Emergency systems activated, casting everything in red shadows. Alarms echoed through the corridors. Elias reacted instantly. He moved in front of Lurie, placing his body between her and the dark. "Stay close," he said. Figures moved ahead, shapes too fast for humans armed with shock weapons. They were not Veleri. They were mercenaries hired to create chaos. Elias knew he could not win a fight against them. He did not try. Instead, he activated his emergency beacon and shouted into the corridor, drawing attention to himself. The attackers hesitated. That moment was enough. Veleri security arrived like a storm. The attackers were subdued and taken away. Elias was injured. A shock blade had grazed his side. He remained standing until Lurie was safe, then collapsed. He woke in a medical bay, pain dulled by medication. Lurie stood beside him, her composure fractured in a way few Veleri had ever seen. "You were harmed," she said softly. "I'm fine," he replied. "Part of the job." "You were no longer required," she said. "The law would not have judged you." Elias met her eyes. "I didn't do it because of the law." That was the moment something changed, not just between them, but within the alliance. The incident was broadcast. Humans saw one of their own stand unarmed before alien attackers. Veleri saw a partner who stayed even when duty ended. The season was nearing its end. Pressure mounted. The council prepared for a final evaluation. The bond would either be declared fulfilled with honor or dissolved with consequences. Elias stood once more beside Lurie in the central hall. This time he felt no fear, only resolve. Whatever happened next, he had remained. And that, he realized, was the most human thing he could have done. The final cycle of the Velari mating season arrived quietly. There were no alarms, no public announcements, only a feeling across the Helios ring that something important was about to be decided. Delegations arrived from distant systems. Observers filled the upper galleries of the central hall. Every species wanted to witness what would happen when tradition met choice. Elias stood alone in his quarters, adjusting the plain uniform he had chosen for the day. He had been offered formal attire, ceremonial markings, even symbolic colors. He refused them all. He wanted to stand as himself, nothing more. He thought back to his life before the rescue. Quiet missions, routine reports, no one knowing his name. He had never wanted attention. Yet now millions across the Alliance knew who he was and what he represented. A human officer, chosen, still standing. A chime sounded at his door. Lurie waited outside. She wore traditional Velari robes, flowing and pale, marked with subtle patterns that represented stability and endurance. Her posture was calm, but Elias could see the strain beneath it. The season had taken its toll. "You are ready," she said. "So are you," he replied. They walked together through the corridors toward the hall. No guards surrounded them. That was a Velari choice. Trust had to be visible. Inside the hall, silence fell as they entered. Elias felt the weight of countless eyes. He did not look up. He focused on his breathing, slow and steady, the same way he had during the trials. They took their places at the center. The Velari elder stepped forward, his voice carrying clearly. "The season ends today," he said. "The bond will be judged." He turned first to Lurie. "Envoy, did the chosen partner provide presence, stability, and honor?" "Yes," Lurie answered without hesitation. "At all times." The elder nodded. Then he turned to Elias. "Human Elias Ward," he said. "Did you accept this role freely?" Elias lifted his head. "I did." "Did you remain without coercion?" "Yes." "Did you stay when departure would have been easier?" "Yes." A ripple moved through the hall. The elder raised his hand. "Then by tradition the bond is—" A sharp sound cut through the chamber. A figure stepped forward from the observer ranks. A member of the rival faction, tall and sharp-featured, voice filled with controlled anger. "I challenge this outcome," he said. "This bond weakens Velari tradition. It sets a dangerous precedent." Murmurs spread instantly. Security shifted, but the elder raised his hand again. "Speak," the elder allowed. "The human is not Velari," the challenger continued. "He cannot truly understand our balance. His presence was temporary. When the season ends, he will leave. That makes the bond false." All eyes turned to Elias. For the first time since this began, he felt fear not for himself, but for Lurie. He could walk away. He had been offered that option. She would bear the consequences. Elias took one step forward. "I am human," he said. His voice was clear, steady. "I don't claim to understand everything about Velari tradition, but I do understand choice." He looked at the council, then at the gathered species. "I was not forced to stay. I wasn't paid. I wasn't promised anything. I stayed because someone needed me to stand beside them." The challenger laughed softly. "And when the need ends—" Elias turned to Lurie. She met his gaze, uncertainty and hope mixed together. For the first time, she did not hide what she felt. Elias faced the hall again. "Then I will still stand," he said. Silence followed. The elder studied him carefully. "You speak beyond obligation." "Yes," Elias replied, "because humans don't bond because of seasons or laws. We bond because we decide someone matters." The words echoed across the hall. The elder stepped back, conferring briefly with the other Velari leaders. Time stretched. The alliance waited. Finally, the elder returned to the center. "The bond is fulfilled," he declared. "Not by biology, but by honor." A deep sound rose from the Velari delegation. It was not applause, but approval. The challenger said nothing. He turned and left. Relief washed through Elias, but it did not end there. The elder continued. "The season has ended. By law, both parties are free." Lurie's breath caught. Elias felt it beside him. The elder looked at Elias again. "Human, your duty is complete." Elias nodded slowly. "I understand." Lurie turned toward him. For the first time since they met, her control fully slipped. "You may go," she said, though her voice was quiet. "I will not hold you." Elias took a breath. He thought of Earth, of quiet mornings, of a life that would return to normal if he walked away now. Then he thought of the moment under the collapsing slab, of the trust in her eyes. "I'm not leaving," he said. Gasps spread through the hall. "This is no longer required," the elder warned. "I know," Elias replied. "This is my choice." Lurie stared at him. "You owe me nothing." "I know that too," he said, "but I don't walk away from people who stood with me." The elder was silent for a long time. Then he spoke words that would be remembered across the alliance. "Then this bond changes," he said. "It becomes mutual." Lurie stepped closer to Elias, not touching but near enough that their shoulders almost met. "I chose you for the season," she said. "I choose you now because you stay." Elias smiled, small and human. "I guess that makes two of us choosing." The council recorded the decision, not as a mating bond, but as a voluntary partnership recognized by Valeri and human law alike, a first of its kind. News spread quickly beyond the station. On human worlds, people watched in silence as the story unfolded. No weapons, no conquest, just a human standing when it would have been easier not to. Among the Valeri, something shifted. Tradition did not break, it evolved. In the cycles that followed, Elias returned to duty, but nothing was the same. He was no longer just an officer. He became a symbol, though he never asked to be one. Lurie continued her work as an envoy, now often accompanied by Elias not by requirement, but by choice. They worked side by side, learning each other's cultures, making mistakes, correcting them together. Their bond was quiet, built on presence, on trust, on staying. Years later, historians would write about that season. They would say it was the moment the Alliance truly understood humans, not as conquerors, not as weak newcomers, but as the species that remains. And in a galaxy ruled by instinct, that simple human decision changed everything.